Good afternoon, FlossTube. It's Caroline of Caroline's Corner here in Leeds in the UK. It's Tuesday the 8th of April. I am on my Easter holidays from work. We've survived another term. We're into the run up to the GCSEs, so next term's likely to be a bit fraught. I'd like to welcome everyone who's watching. If you're a new viewer, thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe to this video, leave comments. I do enjoy all of that. And for returning subscribers, and if you're a returning viewer, thank you very much for coming back. I do appreciate you all. This is a video about my crafts, primarily about cross stitch, but there will be knitting. There is knitting today and some sewing and quilting as well. This time round I've actually managed to get some done. You can find me around the internet. I'm mostly on Instagram. My Instagram handle is at Caroline A Kemp, and Caroline is spelt with a K. I think that's about it. Not much else to tell you life-wise, other than we reached the Easter holidays, thank God. And the sun's come out. It's been really grim, but for the last week of term and for the start of the holidays, we have some sunshine, and it made the last week of term so much more bearable, especially with the time change, that it was bright and sunny and we could take the students outside. I have loads to share with you. I have a big stack of stuff here. I mean, I probably need to refer to my notes throughout the video just to remind myself what the fabrics and things are. I've got my afternoon cup of coffee in my lovely Stacey Snyder Cycling Podcast mug from last year's Tour de France. So let's get going. It's got coffee in, as I think I said, didn't I? It's got coffee in. My head is in what is at that stage. I'm still recovering from the clocks changing at the end of term. So first off, I have a fully finished object to share with you. I fully finished my Milk Paint Sampler Thread Fold by Mary Gary's Sewing Cabin. I finished this back in October of last year, so you saw it partly finished. You saw it when I'd finished the stitching. So I have now finished it into a thread fold. Let me just untie it. So yes, I just put a bit of wool felt on the inside. If you can see, I hem stitched around it, and I put some dyed bias tape a la Stacey Nash round as a fastening. Really pleased with how that ended up. It looks absolutely lovely. It's stitched on a random piece of 32 count overdyed fabric, hand-dyed fabric. I think it was by Silk Weaver. I didn't have a label with it. I started stitching on it in 2009, but this is actually a little kit I had in my stash since the early 2000s. And the silk used is the Kreinik Silk Moire Milk Paint colours. It was sold as a kit with the pattern and the threads to promote the milk paint. Threads by Kreinik. There you go, that was the thread. I'm happy to pass the stash with this one, so if any of you would like the pattern, it's only charted for the milk paint Silk Moro, but I'm sure there's a conversion online for it. So I'd only be passing the chart on. Just leave me a note in the comments. If there's more than one of you, I will do a drawing. But yeah, so yes, very pleased to have got that done. You're unlikely to see any more fully finished objects after today's video, possibly for a little while, because I have this week started in on the finishing of my Fruits of the Vine Husif, which if you've been with me for any length of time, you know I finished the stitching last year. There's quite a lot of finishing work on that one, so I'm expecting that to take me a few months. But so if I don't seem to be finishing anything, it's just because I'm plugging away on that one and it's not something I can rush. But that finish is going to be quite cool. Fortunately, Ellen gives really great detailed instructions, but it's likely to take me a little while. I've started it now because I'm going to a quilting retreat at the end of the month, so I'm actually planning on taking it with me, so I can get, because it does require some machine sewing, so I can actually get a bit of an uninterrupted few hours to sort the pockets on the inside of the Husif. And then I've got another retreat in June when I will do a bit more finishing. So I've got some time where I can see me getting serious, bit of an uninterrupted, because an hour here or there, which is what I get most weeks to do this stuff, it's going to take most of the year to finish, and I would like to get it finished because I've got quite a pile, because I finished so much stuff. You know, I finished some very long-term whips last year, and it'd be nice to get onto the next one, which will also be a long-term finishing prospect. Right, and now my focus piece, and I have had a finish for that. If you remember, last time I recorded, I was very nearly at the end of the stitching on Along the James River by Forget Me Nots in Stitches. Here we are. It's a sewing case. It's got so this is the outside of the sewing case. I'll shuffle forwards and you can get a decent look at that bottom panel, which is lovely. The full name of this piece is Along the James River, Williamsburg Bound, and I think Lauren originally designed it and taught it at Colonial Williamsburg when they used to have the when Just Cross Stitch used to organise the retreat there. So yeah, so there's the outside, and that's the inside, and it has pockets top and bottom, and I finished the pockets. I was working on this one, if I remember right, last time I recorded. So I have finished my pockets. I have finished the little gussets that go on the sides of this one, so it's got a little bit of room. And that's all done. I started it in April 2013. I took the class at the end of June 2013 with Lauren in London with the Albury sisters, Susan and Sarah, whose company at the time was Hanging by a Thread. That was actually the last class I took with them, because Susan stopped organising the classes shortly after that. Sadly, Susan passed away a few years ago. but I have fabulous memories of taking these classes with Lauren and C.A. Wells and Mary Cox. So yes, so finished March 2025. Only took just shy of 13 years. Obviously it was all kit material, so I think this is some 32 count natural linen. The threads used are predominantly sampler threads, but there are some Karen Splendor silks, particularly in the Bargello work, and about 3 or 4 water lilies. All this water is a water lily, and one of Vera Soir 103 in the green. So this will now go and marinate for a little while on the pile, my to be finished pile. Like I say, I've got a few substantial pieces now that are waiting to be finished, so hence cracking on with the Fruits of the Vine Hussif, which is the oldest one, which means I now have a new focus piece. Sorry, not had nearly enough coffee yet today. My new focus piece is the other piece I took at the classes that weekend in June 2013, and it's also by Lauren Sauer of Forget Me Nots in Stitches, and it's called Mistress L's Sampler of Bands and Emblems and Symbols. Words are proving hard today. So this is a picture. So this is the top, and then this is the bottom half. It's quite a long one. Absolutely gorgeous sampler. So this has had one 10-hour slot on it now. I will put a picture in here of where I was before I started, so you can see where I was when I started. And then here is where I'm up to. I have about reached the quarter way. I'm about a quarter of the way down the sampler, for context. So when I picked it up, I was on this band here with the leaves. So I finished that one, did that black work band, a couple of black work bands. The dividing lines are Montenegrin stitch, which is fine when I'm going in a straight line. I'm fine with it when I'm going in a straight line. It's going to get challenging when I get to these places where I've got to go on a slant. I know I find that a problem. I've done that on enough pieces to know that's when I struggle. And to give you an idea, this is how much fabric I have left. The fabric is 40 count antique white, and it's being stitched with a mixture of this dark green is Forest Glade. It's sampler threads, so it's dark green is Forest Glade. This is how much I've got left of my first skein of Forest Glade. There's a couple of pallets of sampler threads, and then there are some of Vera Soir silks. So you will be seeing this every video now until it is finished. I fully expect that it will take me at least the rest of the year to finish, if not to get into next year, just because I didn't get very far. We didn't get the sampler until the day of the class. So we didn't start it. So unlike the sewing pocket where we got pre-stitching, we didn't get pre-stitching for the sampler, we just got that in class. So that's why I didn't get very far at the time, and it's never really, I've not really worked on it a lot because I've always been working on something else since the class. So we'll get on to what I was where I am with my rotation pieces. So just bear with me while I clip this one up. Right, so when I last recorded, I was about to start working on Florence Mary Dickinson. I'd started Florence Mary on the 1st of March in 2023. And I think I've worked on her a couple of times since then. I'm stitching Florence with all the called for DMCs. Now, this was an exclusive design from Hands Across the Sea through Hobby House Needleworks. So I bought the kit at the time, so I got the lovely little floss jewellery from Minnie McBean's as well. And I'm using the called for fabric, which is 40 count creme brulee from Tabby Cat. And this is where I'm up to. Again, I'll put a picture in of where I got to, where I was when I picked this up. So this time round, I was focusing quite a bit on the border. I'd a bit of the border stitching in. I'd got all the border vine done, and I made a small start at stitching the flowers on the border. But Brenda says, don't leave the border till last. And you know, we do what Brenda says. Or Brenda and the Serial Starter when she showed her finished Florence Mary. So I have about a quarter of the border completed. So having got that far, I was busy putting in this big vase of flowers, and it was so nice to get one of the large motifs in, because I only had this bird and this little tree in when I picked it up. So I actually started filling some space filling space in the middle of this sampler. I mean, she liked her colours to Florence Mary, and she changed them quite a lot, which means that it's difficult to get a routine going. I mean, the border not so much. You can do, you know, there's 2 greens, 2 blues and 2 reds. So I just did a colour every time. I kind of gotten her into a routine with rhythm with the border, but the motif not so much. About every flower is a different colour, which is, it's going to look gorgeous when it's done. And she's a very colourful girl. So all in all, very pleased to see some substantial progress on Florence Mary. After that, I returned to my small project, which, if you saw my last video, was one that had gone over. I didn't finish in the first 10 hours. This took somewhat less than 20, but I can't remember exactly. It's On the Older Bough by Blackbird Designs. This is one of the charts in the Thy Love More Strong book. but I was gifted this and the Thy Love More Strong sampler by a friend who went to the Shepherd's Bush retreat 2 years ago, and this was one of the designs that Blackbird presented. And I have it finished. So this is my finished Thy Love More Strong. I did contemplate doing it as a box finish like Alma did. However, in the interests of actually getting it very quickly, it would have sat for ages in the to be finished pile. So I was moved to just finish it as a little pin pillow, which is what I've done. Just a little bit of taking on the back. I don't know what the fabric is. I've had it in my stash for 20 odd years. I think some I picked up on a trip to the States in about 2001, 2002. No, we didn't go in 2001, 2002. So this is stitched on some 40 count Affogato linen by Fibre on a Whim, and I used all the called for overdyed cottons. There's some classic colour works, some Weeks dye works, and some sampler threads in there. You'll see the threads in a minute when I do show you my next project. So very pleased to have gotten that one done. Very pleased to have got it finished so quickly. Goodness knows I have enough that is marinating in the to be finished pile. So speaking of Thy Love More Strong, because I'd finished, if you remember, I'd actually finished a couple of medium-sized projects. Well, I say medium-sized projects. I'd finished a couple of WIBs, so I could start a new one. And my Tiny Decisions app is determined that this year I'm going to stitch a lot of Blackbird designs, because when I spun the wheel, it came up with Thy Love More Strong. So as you can see, again, I've got the individual pattern rather than the booklet, but it's a lovely sampler. Carol stitched this for her January sampler, so if you want to see the finished piece, go see Carol's. And if you haven't seen it, I'd be very surprised if you haven't seen it now. Her blackbird, when she was showing off all her blackbirds, wow. I just sat there and drooled. You know, I have a lot of blackbird charts, I just haven't stitched many of them. So this is where I got to after 10 hours on Thy Love More Strong. When my friend gifted me the charts, she passed on the linen. So this is 36 count Velt from Picture This Plus. She did, however, keep the threads for herself, which is fair enough. So these are the colours. So it's a mix of Weeks Dye Works, Classic Colourworks, sampler threads. All Thy Love More Strong just has more colours than on the older bow. That had about 6 colours, and then there's about another 4 in the sampler. So very, very Blackbird palette, as you can see. So yes, so I've got the alphabet in the top. I haven't done these flowers up the top yet because they're satin stitch and I didn't want them to get crushed by my Q. This is in a Q snap when I'm stitching on it. So I decided I'd leave them to the end. So quite pleased with how far I got. Got a good chunk of that big centre motif done. So yeah, that was fun to start. We'll see when that comes out again. So after working on Thy Love More Strong, The next, it was time for a large whip again, and the whip that came out was, on my Tiny Decisions out, was Anne Grant, 1829 by Shakespeare's Peddler. Again, I will insert a picture of where I was when I started this. Now, Anne, it's not very centered. Anne got worked on a bit last year. I'm just going to shugle her over so you can see all of her, because she's quite a big girl, or she will be when she's done. So here we are. This is Anne, all my progress on Anne so far. So this time round, I had the green or the red border done. I had the green of this border with the flowers filled in. I had the green on this border along here, and I had this border come in apart from the berries. So what I did was stitch the two flowers there. I was basically working on page 1 of the chart. Put the berries in on the inner border, and then started the Isleta alphabet, and that's where I got to. This is being stitched on some 40 count latte linen by Northumberland Sampler House, using mostly the called for threads, which are a mix of silks. There is some Avera Soie, there are a couple of needlepoint silks, there are a couple of classic Colourworks, there are a couple of Glorianas. Now, the original design also called for thread gatherer silks, particularly these flowers in particular. I haven't used, it's the one where I've been using it. Now, when I was kitting this up, I should say I started this in 2020, May 2022. So I was kitting this up in 2021, and at that time, thread gatherers aren't easy to find in the UK. And at that time, I didn't particularly want to, it was still difficult ordering from the States. So I didn't want to order them from the States. So what I did was go to the DMC equivalents, which Teresa gives on the pattern, and I did a best match I could from my very large stash of water lilies. So I'm using 2 water lilies in place of the thread gatherers. This particular one here is Cherry Cordial. And I think I substituted teak for the other one, but I haven't used that yet. So we'll see what that looks like. So yeah, I loved working on Anne again. I think she's a beautiful sampler, and you don't actually see, or I haven't seen that many people working on her. I think because she came out quite close to Anne Dale, I think unfortunately she got totally overshadowed by Anne Dale, which is absolutely stunning, and I do have Anne Dale. But yeah, and I love this border. She's going to be absolutely gorgeous when she's done, and I'm really pleased to have got a bit more. Just started filling in the middle on this one as well. So after I'd worked on Anne, it was time to work on another small project. And again, this got finished. This wasn't actually the small project I was going to work on. I was going to work on something else, but then I'm going, as I mentioned, I'm going to a quilting retreat at the end of the month, and there was a request made that we all had name tags. So I stitched a name tag for myself. I picked bits from all over. That Curly K is from a Saju booklet I've got. The rest of the alphabet's from a Blackbird chart. The coffee beans at the bottom are from a Heartstring Samplers chart. And then I just winged it for the border at the top. The linen is a scrap of 32 count Sandstorm from Original Silkweaver that I had in my stash. Everything is from Very Deep Stash. And I stitched it in Vicky Clayton silks because I have a reasonably large collection of Vicky Clayton silks from when she was dyeing originally. And I've barely used any of them, so I decided to pull from them to use what I had. So, and then finished it with a bit of batik on the back and a pin. It's laced round some template plastic. So I say laced. It's double-sided sellotape, double-sided tape to stick it down, and then just sew the two halves together, and that's my name badge for retreat. So, and I have one now for anything else I go to. So my next medium-sized project was Stacey Nash's Gingerbread House Sewing Book. Which was a class I took at the Jingle Ball in December of this year. Obviously, I didn't start stitching it till, I think I started New Year, or just before. It was certainly in the Christmas holidays this year. So this one. Now, Stacey did say, I think she's going to keep this design exclusive to the Jingle Ball, but hopefully if you decide to go this year, and I do recommend going to the Jingle Ball, it was really good fun. You don't have to go in the stitching rooms and things, but just for access to the shop, I didn't think it was, especially if the designers are your thing, you will probably be able to buy it. I think that was what she was saying. So if you want to go to the Jingle Ball this year, I really enjoyed it. I didn't think $10 was too expensive to access the ball compared to how much I would have to pay to go to a stitching show, one of the knitting and stitching shows. I thought it was quite good value, I say, especially if the designers are your thing. If the designers aren't your thing, then maybe not, but yeah, I thought it was worth it, and I had a lovely time. And this is where I got to. I actually finished stitching on this morning. It's a nice thing about being on holiday. I get morning stitching. I'll stick in a picture of where I was when I picked it back up. So as you can see, I was about halfway down the front, working on these little wreaths and filling in the last of the windows. And I have half of it done. So I really enjoyed working on the bottom half of the house, and I've made a small start on the back of the design. So I'm stitching this on a piece of 36 count autumn gold linen from Lakeside that I've had in my stash. It's a Very Deep Stash. It's back from the days when Lakeside were first dyeing, and I was in the Silk Weaver Fabric of the Month Club, and they offered a Lakeside option. I think they were working together or something. I don't know the exact details, but I got a fair bit of Lakeside back then. Yeah, and I thought the colour was quite gingerbready, so I thought it would work for this piece. And besides which, I have that Lakeside. I want to use it. It's Lakeside. It seems a shame not to. I'm using the Call for Weeks Dye Works with it. This is 6 colours of Weeks Dye Works. Really enjoy working on that one. So happy it came up again. I mean, I want to work on everything I've got as a WIP, but seeing a bit of substantial progress on a few things isn't necessarily a bad thing. So, pardon me, having finished the gingerbread house this morning means this evening I pick up a new large project, and that is going to be the Drawn Thread and Open Heart. I started this in September 2020, so it's going to be nice. I love drawn threads. I love working on drawn threads. I have some behind me. I have had this chart and had it kitted since it came out in, I think, about 2002. Very early 2000s anyway. And here is where I'm up to. I'm about a third of the way down the middle. Stitched in needlepoint silks. There are some beads to go on it as well, but I'm saving the beading till the end because they're all in the border. So my plan when I work on it this time is to bring the borders down, because there's that lovely white work border and the black work border, to bring them down on either side, because in the next to where I'm completed, and then do the next section of the middle, because the next section of the middle does include some drawn thread work, and she does say in the instructions don't do the border. Well, actually she says leave the borders to the end, and there was no way I was leaving the borders to the end. But I need to get that drawn thread section in before I take the borders all the way down the piece. That's a bit to go. It's quite a long piece. So yeah, really looking forward to working on that again. It's being stitched on a 34 count. I think the call for is Cafe au lait. I can't remember if it's the call for or not, but it's a lovely linen. It might be Elegant Bean, I'm not sure if it's not Cafe au lait, because the kit came from Elegant Stitch. But yeah, gonna be nice to get some hours on that one. I don't think I've worked on it for quite a while, for well over a year. So, and I do like my drawn threads. They are just such a comfort stitch for me. So we're into the plans section next. So obviously I'm going to keep going with my rotation. So there'll be more work on Mistress L's sampler. My next small piece is from, I say, my Tiny Decisions app is determined I'm going to stitch Blackbird this year, because it came up with another one, because it's spun for Blackbird Designs again. So I'm doing a piece on the Winds of Autumn book, and the design I've decided to stitch is Spell of the Moon. Just that little pillow there. I think this will be another one that takes me a couple of slots to get the pillow complete. I'm going to stitch it on a piece of Sugar Maple Fabrics Burnt Papyrus, which is Belfast linen, 32 count linen, that I acquired from a friend who passed away when we all could take a pic of her stash. And I'm going to use the Call-For threads, which is a Weeks Dye Works Harvest Moon, Pelican Grey, Gentle Arts Harvest Moon, Weeks Dye Works Pelican Grey, and Classic Colourworks Black Coffee. Okay, and looking forward to doing that one. It'll be nice to have another stitch to add to my autumn Halloweeny display. I don't do Halloween per se, but we get going. Then for my next rotation round, the medium-sized project that's come up is Just Nans and Many More, which I started in January 2020. And this is where I'm up to with it. You can see last time it came out, I finished the top section and made a start on the bottom for Whipgo last year. So I'm hoping in 10 hours of stitching I can complete the back of the needlework, which is this section, and maybe make a start on the flap. But the flap, if you can see the glare, that bit there is full coverage. So I think I don't think I'm gonna get it finished in 10 hours, but I should get it moved quite well on so that it only needs another 10-hour slot to finish it. The linen is lamb's wool. I don't even need to look that up, I know that from the feel. And it's using Splendor silks and One Thread Gatherer silk. This was an exclusive to Silver Needle many years ago, and which I bought at the time it came out. It was again early 2000s, and it sat in my stash for ages. It's a companion piece to a scissor book holder that was called 20 Flowers, that was the 20th anniversary of Silver Needle, and then Just Nan did this companion piece for it. So nice to get that done, because I got the scissor, it's just the scissor holder, I think I finished it in about 2016. Took a while to get finished, but you know, I've had the scissor pocket done for quite a while, so nice to get a needle book as well. And then to complete that rotation round, my large piece is going to be Hannah Cates. So it's going to be really nice to get a bit of working on Hannah. Just see if I can get her so she's totally on the board. Haven't worked on Hannah. I think I did a bit of work on Hannah over the summer last year when I was I did about a week on each of my samplers. So as you can see, I'm working along the bottom. So I'm actually hoping that in 10 hours I can get the house finished and then take the grass. I don't doubt I'll get the grass all the way to the other side, but I can certainly get a bit further on and maybe get the other person on the other side of the house in. The bird takes quite a lot of stitching, so we'll see where I get to, but it's going to be really nice to work on Hannah again. I'm stitching Hannah on 40 count light mocha linen from Zweigart, and just using the DMCs. And I think she's looking lovely, so I'm going to enjoy getting a bit of progress in on Hannah. So that's where my stitching is going to be heading for the next month or so. So I always get more stitching in the holidays because I can stitch in the mornings as well as get it in the evenings, because normally I'm lucky if I get an hour in a day in. Quite often less than that. During the working week, it's only at the weekends where I get a serious amount of stuff, which is why I do a 10-hour rotation, because on an average week 10 hours is my stitching time for the week. Sometimes more, sometimes less. There has been a tiny little bit of stash. I haven't succumbed to any market releases, partly because I'm paying for this quilting retreat next month. I have a retreat in June, and I'm going to a class with Beth Twist of Heartstring Samplery through Peakside Needleworks in July, which I'm really looking forward to. And we should be getting the kit for that soon. So I've been trying not to buy, but I think last time I mentioned I had, however, succumbed to the sampler Scarlet House exclusive for Holly Hobby House Needleworks. So I did treat myself to the kit for Eleanor Roberts. Looked like I brought the fabric over. I've gone for the DMC version, and because I got the complete kit, it came with a notebook. The fabric's 40 count Dolly Madison from Needle and Flax. So that's on the shelf. I say, I've got a little bag with the DMC colours in. So that's waiting for me to finish a couple of large projects before I can start another large project. I'm trying to whip down. So if I finish 2 projects, I can start 1 new project, just to try and get them down. But don't expect to finish too many large projects. I have got another couple of charts. Last year when I was at Fobbles, I asked Bev if she was going to get in a couple of the new Scarlet House releases from last year, and ordered those, and I'd totally forgotten about it until Bev emailed me, and I was like, oh yeah. So I got Home is Where the Samplers Are, and then Red Manor Sampler. They were both retreat pieces that Tanya had taught. And that's the stitching for the minute. So we will quickly go on to my knitting now. I've been a little bit of knitting. I am plugging away at a couple of projects that I have. I say I'm still not knitting a huge amount. I'm getting a fair bit of sock knitting done in training at work, because I can't focus without doing something with my hands. So I've been knitting on Curious Handmaid's Rainy Window Socks. These are from the Sock Society 3. Now, she has just announced that she's running Sock Society this year, and she's just put up pre-sales. And I was thinking, do I really need to join another? I don't need any more sock patterns. And then she told us the theme of the sock patterns is libraries and reading. And I'm like, that's me. I'm sold. I will be signing up. So I'm on my second sock. The yarn I'm using is from the Knitting Goddess, who is unfortunately no longer dying. It's her 4-ply Brit sock, which was Blue Face Leicester, Wensleydale, alpaca and nylon, and in the colourway Superhero Jeans, which was a special charity colourway that she did. So I bought a skein. I had to cut my yarn because it got stuck in the zip of my project bag. This is the second sock. This is the first sock. So you can see what it looks like when it's finished. I am on to, well, I made a small start on the heel flap. When you last saw it, I was down here. So as you can see, there's been a fair bit of training at work. So yeah. So hopefully next time you see it, I might have the heel turned. We'll see. But quite enjoy that one. And then the other project I'm working on, which I want to get finished, is the Habitation Throw, also by Helen Stewart. I've been trying to use up some of my leftover yarn from, I had a handful of minis, so there are some minis in here. Helen designed it as to go with an advent calendar. I'm using up yarn from Shawl Projects, so those two are Shawl Projects. That's a mini, that's another shawl, that's another shawl, that's a mini, that's a shawl, that was a shawl, that's a mini. So yeah, it's from a variety of different dyers. There's a lot of Eden Cottage yarns in here, some Border Tart, Blue Moon Indigo, some River yarns, amongst others. And I have reached the widest point, was there. So I am on the downward stretch. So when I picked it up again after my last video, put in a project mark. So you can see I haven't done a lot, but every so often I do pick it up and put a row or two in. Mostly because I find it, I still have problems with my hand, and if I am using a mouse all day, I really can't knit. It does horrible things to the nerves in my hand. So knitting is a occasional thing. I seem to be able to cope with the sock knitting a lot easier than I do using the larger ones. I think that must be to do with the size of the so I am about to change colour because that's all I've got left. But yeah, so I'm trying to use, like a lot of us, I think I'm trying to use a lot of stuff up this year rather than buying new stuff. And because I've not been knitting a lot, I've got a bin full of yarn, so I haven't bought yarn for ages. I'm just trying to go through what I've got. Find somewhere to put that isn't in my coffee cup. Right. And I've actually carved out a bit of time to do some sewing of late, and I actually have a finish. I've been working on a tiny needle book by Sweet Cinnamon Roses for about a year. It's one of those, I pick it up and I get a bit done, and then it gets put away for a month, for several months, and then I'll have a flurry and get a bit more done, and then it gets put away again. So yeah, so this is a kit from Modern Quilt, Lisa at Modern Quilt Club, as a way of using up her scraps. So it's a nice scrappy project, and so that's the outside, and in the inside you've got a couple of pockets there and there, and then there's a zip pocket as well, which I put a couple of pair of scissors in because I felt these scissors match some of the fabric. And there's that for needles. So it's almost a small project case rather than necessarily a... So yeah, it's sat with only needing about an hour's sewing to finish off the inside for about 6 months. I don't know why I do this to myself, but there you go. Well, I know why I do it to myself. It's because other stuff gets in the way. So, very pleased to get that done. And then I've managed to do some quilt blocks on the 2 mystery quilts that I have going. The first off, I worked a little bit on my Village Green quilt. They're both through Lisa at the Modern Quilt Club. They were both mysteries. Village Green obviously isn't a mystery anymore because that was last year's. The fabrics used for Village Green are from Macawa Fabrics, and they're called Heather and Sage. And these lovely ones with the sheepies on. So the blocks I got done, well, I got halfway through finishing, so I finished off 2 of these big blocks. And 2 of these blocks, which quite straightforward really for those ones. So these are only blocked, I'm only up to block 2 on these. This was block 1. There's some flying geese blocks. I have 4 of those that I got done. So I need to get back to that at some point because I have all the clues sat there. I do like that fabric, it's lovely, but I also like the fabric of the current one of the currents. This is Wild West, and I'm using the Buzz colourway. We're up to clue 9. I haven't done clues 9. I'm only up to clue 3 for finishing. And this was, the fabric line is All Day's End from Sarah Maxwell, of Designs by Sarah J. for Andover Fabrics. So what I got done this time around was 4 of these flying geese blocks. So that's clue 3. And that was clue 2. that was clue 1. And for each clue I've got several, usually 2 or 3 copies of the, so there's 2 of this one, there was 2 of each of the other blocks for clue 2. So, and then the fun bit is working out, is seeing how Sheila puts it all together at the end. So, as far as plans go for my sewing, it is keep plugging away at my quilt, my mystery quilts, and see if I can't get one or both of them completed this year. We'll see. I've got several quilts also need quilting, and various other things, so we shall see. Anyway, see, this has reached another hour. Again, trouble with not recording very often. I'm not sure when I will record again, because we're going away at Spring Bank, which is the next half term. I might try and squeeze a video in at the beginning of May when we've got the bank holiday, so I'll be off work for a day, but I might have to see how that goes. So I shall catch you later. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for coming back. I hope you have a lovely Easter if you celebrate Easter, and I hope the sun's shining for you, because it does help with everything that's going on at the minute, to just get some sunshine and vitamin D. So thank you again, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.